Good morning, good afternoon, buenos dias, buenas tardes. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Yo Cuento, part of Latino Conservation Week. This week, we are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Latino Conservation Week and Latino Outdoors. We are so happy to be joined by our good friend, Kim Haas, who is a traveler, a storyteller, a TV producer, and most importantly, just a wonderful human being with a lot of stories to share and a lot of stories to tell. So I wanted to, Kim, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you've been?
Sure. Christian, thank you so much. And thank you all at Latino Outdoors. And first of all, felicidades. 10 years is amazing. And that is no small feat. So, congratulations to all of you because it is a tremendous accomplishment. So, congratulations. Felicidades.
I appreciate that, and I know that it's just been a whirlwind, but it's also a good way for us to like look back. Like we've been doing a lot of examination
Yes.
and paying attention. Like 10 years ago was like where we are in the present, and then a little bit of what does the future look like. So we're so happy that you've been part of our past and part of our present, and really, really honestly hope that you continue to join us as we go 10 years into the future. So
Of course.
so I wanted to start off with a question like, how are you?
I am well. I am super fantastic. Thank you for asking, and I hope all of you out there are doing well also. I am actually, you can't tell from here, but I'm actually in Charleston, South Carolina right now. So I'm in the middle. I wish I could show you all of this incredibly beautiful location, and it's full of just greenness and nature's, I think, bounty. And so it's just a really lovely spot for kind of reflection and sharing and part of being outdoors. And so I love South Carolina is just so pretty. So it's nice to be here. I'm here for a family reunion.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
I will have to visit sometime. I've heard great
Yes,
things about South Carolina. Uh,
yes.
So the show and the handles and the website are Travels with Kim Haas and AfroLatino Travels with Kim
Yes,
Haas.
yes.
So I wanted to ask, where have you traveled to recently, and
Oh.
do you have anything to share about it?
Well, I most certainly do. First of all, thank you. So I was in Santiago de Cuba in April, and I don't know how many of you out there are Cubans or just love Cuba, or maybe you haven't been and it's on your bucket list. But I do suggest you go. You can travel to Cuba right now, especially if you're an American US citizen. It is still legal, but you do obviously have to look up all, make sure, the procedures and how to travel there, but you can travel to Cuba. And I tell you, Santiago is so rich in culture and history. It's a really incredible place, very super special. So I was just there. As I mentioned, I'm currently right now in Charleston, South Carolina. And what I have coming up is it's been a dream of mine to shoot in Colombia. So I don't know how many of you out there are Colombians or have ties to Colombia or just a lover of Colombia, but we will be bringing those next episodes to PBS across the country for Hispanic Heritage Month, probably in the fall, so probably October. So we are now frantically finishing up everything with these episodes, and I am just so excited to bring some of these stories to the small screen and let people get a chance to see some of Colombia that maybe they are not as familiar with, and also perhaps dispel some myths about Colombia if you've thought about traveling there. It had a reputation of drugs and violence, but a lot of that is changing, and it's a magnificent country. Oh, it's just so special. So I know we can get into that, but so Colombia is what you'll be seeing from us very soon.
That's wonderful, and I appreciate you mentioning, dispelling some of the myths. A lot of what we do with Latino Outdoors and as part of Latino Conservation Week is often rewriting the narrative. Like today's theme is Yo Cuento. I count, I
Yeah.
matter, I have a story to tell. And so, kind of course correcting or doing a little occasional check-ins and being like, well, we may have heard about this, from our parents or from the news in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Where are we right now? So it's important to have, you know, kind and thoughtful and energetic and authentic ambassadors like you who can
Oh,
go and be on the ground and celebrate the culture and then come back to show us all like, well, how is it? How if Kim loved it, like I feel like I'm already looking up Cuba, travel plans after just 2 seconds on the call with you.
yes. Yeah.
Um,
You know what? I mean, I think that's what one of the things that, I think Latino Outdoors, Afro-Latino Travels, I love what you all are doing. And I think that's what one of the things that we have in common is this idea of dispelling myths, as you said, breaking, barriers, getting people outside, outdoors, and having those experiences for themselves so that they can then say, hey, well, I went to this place, I experienced it. I had an amazing time and you can go as well. And so that's what we really try and celebrate.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I know that you have a little bit of a presentation, and bear with me as I follow along. But I'd love for us to be able to share it with folks, and then if you would be so kind as to narrate,
Sure,
I guess this is a little version of your show, where we hear
sure.
the Kim voice putting all these images into context. So I'm gonna
Great.
start with that real quick.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Sure.
All right.
And I just, excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, I'm right here. Great. So, yeah, I mean, obviously this is the first slide, but again, just thanking you all, Latino Outdoors, and again for, 10 wonderful years. And of course, we wish you 10 more. So we'll jump right into the presentation. Yes. Oh, that's, maybe someone familiar. Here I am. That's in actually one of the restaurants in Cali where we were filming. And I just love murals. And of course, you see the green there and the nature. So I had to capture that. So that's all. Just Afro-Latino Travels with Kim Haas. Just bringing the spirit, whether it's indoors or outdoors. I love being surrounded by nature. And here you can see Colombia on the map. If you happen to be, I use the US just because that's where I am based, but you get a sense of where Colombia is positioned. And again, this is in relationship to the United States, but you can see the entire world. So wherever you are on our beautiful planet, you can see where Colombia is. And kind of right between, it has the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and Pacific Oceans as its boundaries and bodies of waters right there. And it's at the northern tip of South America. And so next slide, please. And then here you can see a picture of a map of Colombia, and the little red dot there is Cali. And so our 2 episodes focus on Cali. And then we also go to a town called San Cipriano, which is what I'm going to focus on. But you can see the general positioning of Cali in Colombia. A lot of people tend to go to Cartagena, which is up in the north, and or Bogota, which is kind of centrally located in Colombia. And then you have Cali right there, which is part of that amazing Pacific coast and Pacific region of culture, which is heavily populated by Afro descendants. And that's what those upcoming episodes really concentrate on is the Pacific region of Colombia and its Afro descendant culture, which is, I tell you all, absolutely amazing. So next slide. And I think if we can see there, right, there you go. So Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet. It is actually, I think, the second most biodiverse country. As I mentioned, it's got the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. So whether, water sports, all kinds of just, enjoying Mother Nature, you've got it right there on both sides with the Atlantic and Pacific. It's got the largest variety of ecosystems in the world. You've got rainforests, mangroves, deserts. you name it, it's all right there in the country. 6,000 species of plants. I love plants. You can see this one right here. I love, again, being surrounded by greenness and goodness. 1,500 species of orchids. I also love orchids. So I love just bringing that outdoors in when I can have them in my home. Um, and then the butterflies, the mariposas. Whenever I see a butterfly, I just think it's such a magical moment. I don't know about you all, but butterflies just make me happy and make me smile. So I love seeing the little mariposas flying around. So it's got an amazing variety and diversity of flora and fauna and insects you can see there on the screen, all right there in Colombia. Next slide, please. And then this is the town I was talking about, which is in this Pacific region and it's called San Cipriano. And so I don't know how many of you may have heard of San Cipriano, but it's a small town and it's kind of off the beaten path, right, Christian? So if you're looking for, maybe you've been to Cartagena, or whether you've been or not, or Cali you're familiar with, or some of the other places like Bogota, you can still find these places like San Cipriano. And as I said, it's a very small town. It's a natural reserve and it's absolutely beautiful. It's so green and lush. So if you happen to live in kind of, an urban, I live right by New York and I love New York, and I'm in Jersey, but if you're looking for an oasis, right, and you want to get away and you want to enjoy the best of Mother Nature and just be around, I think, greenery, right? And there have even been studies that have said that, when we as human beings can surround ourselves or just even for a few minutes be in nature, it does so much to help us relax, to calm ourselves, to give us a break from the hustle and bustle, right? The movement of our world right now. And just unplug for a little while. San Cipriano is a great, I think, respite from all the goings on of modern times. And so there's kind of the signage for San Cipriano, and you can see the bird there. Then let's take you into and tell you how you get into Cipriano. Next slide, please, Christian. And so this is how actually you can see, and I'll tell you about this in just a second. This is one of the old railroad tracks, and you can see how this could do a little peek, right? Piano. But if you can see there just how, green it is, how beautiful it is. And this town is Afro descendant. And so Afro descendants have been living there for generations. And as I said, it's a natural reserve, waterfalls and birding. There's so much there. And if you're looking for something, as I said, off the beaten path, I would highly recommend it just to get a sense of what else is out there, besides the larger cities, the beach towns. It's a nice way to see something else and see a real sense of community. There's a tremendous sense of community in San Cipriano. And there you see it again. And I'll just mention to you, the way that you get into town is on the rail line there, but they call these moto brujas, and I think we have a picture of it coming up. And so the townspeople many years ago used, you can see me on the railroad track, and that's doing one of the intros for San Cipriano. But they used it's really ingenious, the railroad tracks, and they use these motorcycles. So it's called moto bruja. So almost like motorcycle witch. And you come in on the motorcycles, which are platforms on the railroad. It's a great way to come into a town, right? Very different. You're not coming in on car, you're not coming in, you're not flying in, but you're coming in on the ground, on the railroad without any covering. And you just get this beautiful sense all around you on the railroads on each side, right? On each side, you can see the greenery and how beautiful the area is. So it's a different way to come in, and I think a different introduction to a really special place. And there I am kind of doing my opening there. Next slide, please, Christian. And there we are in the Moto Bruja, and I'm with two of the gentlemen from San Cipriano, and they gave me a tour, and you'll see them in the upcoming episodes. We're talking about the town and the Moto Brujas, and you can see us sitting there And it's just a wonderful sense of community. I'm there with Andres and Jose Luis. And if you want to go to San Cipriano, they're really starting to develop their kind of ecotourism. And so you can come in, as I said, participate in a lot of the activities. They've got, as I mentioned, beautiful waterfalls, and there's hiking, birds, all kinds. Remember, Colombia has an incredible array of birds, so bird watching. And these are one of the cabins that they were getting ready for tourists coming in. And so it's, simple structures. This isn't, maybe your higher end, but this is a way, I think, to really connect with nature and community. And you can see it just, as we're there, it was hot, it was warm, and that just looked that the bed and the bedding, and I love the white bedding, just looked so amazingly comfortable, relaxing, and that true getaway. So that just gives you a picture of what the accommodations are like. And one more, I think just one or two more slides. And yeah, this is finally just the end, the outdoors. And again, this is for someone in particular, if you're looking to, get off the beaten path and you're looking for kind of a different kind of getaway, I do really encourage you to think about San Cipriano. And this is, one of the structures there. But you're doing so much, not just in terms of, coming to visit some other perhaps new place, and supporting a community, which I think is really wonderful. That is looking to, really develop its ecotourism and experience a different way of traveling. It's a wonderful opportunity. So please consider San Cipriano. And you'll see more of it on our show. So I'll tell you that. I'll let you know that too. That's it.
Fantastic. Kim, I'm sold. Like,
I'm glad.
and the Moto Brujas, I love that. Like, such
Yes.
ingenuity. And,
Yes.
we talk about conservation in like this kind of almost industrial way nowadays, where it's like it's got to be this and it has to be policy driven and that. But also, like, I love the idea that they're using pre-existing railroad tracks, they're using platforms that are probably makeshift, and that they're using ingenuity to kind of use things, reuse, materials that are all around them. So it doesn't have to look like, recycle, renew, like that is important, that has its value, but also like not looking down at or looking at it differently when folks use what's available to problem solve and get and bring people to this area.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because I think what you're saying is so important, that, this is about using this, using your noodle, using your head, using your creativity. And I was and the team, I think, so impressed with the members of the community. And this is, the Moto Brujas, I believe, started in like the 1980s, but how ingenious the community was at that time to use, like you said, what they had at their disposal, to use their creativity and not think about what, so much they didn't have. They didn't have this, they didn't have that. Well, what do we have? And what can we create? And what can we do together? So there's a real spirit. They work together, to get the Moto Brujas up and running every time. I mean, it's a real delight, in a sense of, like I said, community, but like you were saying, reusing what you have. And so I thought that that was just an incredible example of how we already have so much. And it's just about tapping into that and realizing how fortunate we all are. No matter where you are, you have so much at your disposal. But the number one thing is using this, because once you use, your thoughts and your creativity, you can come up with anything. And I think that's what they do so well.
I love that. And then what you do so well is you travel and you visit and you meet with people and you get to know them as human beings, and then you share their stories. Again, today's theme is Yo Cuento. I count, I matter, I have a story to tell. And so one of the things I've been asking folks throughout the week is like just to peel back a little bit of the behind the scenes. And as a little kid, I grew up reading, in Spanish, the Around the World in 80 Days. And I wish we had a Latino, a Black, an Indigenous Phileas Fogg. Um, but we all have our passepartouts, the person who's like with us, helping like facilitate, helping be a part of that. And I see a lot of crew members in your photos. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? Like for somebody who's like to the share
Yeah. So if you're,
some
I'm
of the
sorry, Christian, could you just repeat that?
yeah, can you share with us some of the behind the scenes of how that process goes?
Of the crew, I'm sorry, because I lost you for a second.
Yeah, sorry, the process of deciding where to go and then
Okay.
going there and then getting those interviews, getting those folks, getting their stories.
Yes, no, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, I always wanted, this has been a dream of mine for many, many years of telling, like you said, the stories of people of African descent in Latin America. Because, when I traveled around, I was meeting all these people who looked like me. And yet, when I was watching television, and particularly Spanish language television, I saw none of these people. And so I'm meeting all these incredible artists and painters and conservationists and people doing just, I think, brilliant work. And yet their stories weren't being told, just what you said. And I just said, wow, I'd like to help tell their stories, or if I can be a vehicle in some form or fashion. And don't we all deserve to know more of these stories? And for people, all of us as human beings, to learn about these incredible people who just are nowhere to be found, usually on Spanish television. And so I thought about, my travels throughout Latin America and how much I enjoy all of these countries and for different reasons. We're talking about Colombia right now, and just the spirit, it's always the spirit of the people, the culture, the beauty of the people and culture. And so our goal is to shoot throughout Latin America. The Colombia episodes are what's coming up next, and which people will be able to start seeing on PBS in the fall. But we look to form relationships with the countries, and so that takes a bit. Sometimes it takes work to do that, and that helps us in terms of navigating and trying to shoot because it costs a lot to shoot in these countries, and so we often need partnering, financial support. So when we're able to develop those relationships with those countries, and they're able to help us with supporting that, and we thank Pro Colombia for coming through big time. And I have to say, in Catalina, particular at Pro Colombia, because she believed in this project. That's also where champions come in. And when you have a champion like you, Christian, and like Latino Outdoors, who continually support, Afro-Latino travels, it means the world because then we can go out and hopefully support, people in San Cipriano with the episode and people in Cali who sometimes who get overlooked and help share their stories. And so we just, we know what kinds of topics we want to discuss. So, we knew we wanted to talk about ecotourism and green spaces. And so we heard about San Cipriano and knew, well, we have to go there. And it's an Afro-descendant community. Everything fit, check. It was all those things that we were looking for. And so we think about the ideas. What do we want to profile? We always want to, talk about the cuisine because food is, no matter where you're from, right? We're all eating in some form or fashion. And so who are the people who are preserving those, culinary traditions, doing different and unique things and asking whether it's a tourism board or locals or people we know, in this instance, who are Colombian. I have a friend, from Cali. Well, who do you like? And then she told us about Basilia. So we knew we wanted to have Basilia because she's been cooking for so long. And Rey Guerrero, another top chef, Afro-Colombian, who are forging, these amazing traditions with their cuisine and telling the stories of how they learned with their mothers or grandmothers, and through it all these dishes speak to the history and culture of a people. And so those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. Those are the kinds of stories we hope to tell and share so that when people, hopefully, if they get to travel, they can look up Basilia or they can go to Rey Guerrero's restaurant And there's so much more stories that we like to tell, but it's thinking about the topics and themes and then looking for those people, doing the research, and as I said, talking to locals and people who know Colombia as well, and getting their take on it. And then also, I'd love for people to email us. Where do you like to go? Where would you like to go? Where do you want us to profile? Love that.
Giving us the behind the scenes. And um, I'm freezing, I'm sure.
It's okay. We warm you up. We
Um,
warm you up.
tech happens. Tech happens.
Yes.
Um, and I appreciate, like, one of the through lines is building relationships with people and being willing to take risks and having a little bit of courage while you're doing that. So so we talked about some of the things that you've done previously. Like, you've shared with us how, like, music and music and dance and cooking can all be ways of telling stories or sharing stories. Was there something particular in Colombia, in Cali, which is like, you know Pacific Ocean, Andes, basin of the Amazon, or maybe not the basin, but near it? Was there something that, like, storytelling wise, that caught your attention, that you're like, you've traveled so many places? Was there something that you're like, this is a very unique to this area?
Yes, no, thank you. I think one of the things that if you're in the Pacific region in particular too, well, it's Cali when you talk about music, is salsa, right? Cali is the capital of salsa. I know other places may disagree, but Cali is right now considered the capital of salsa. So you will see some salsa in the episode. So I'm really excited about that. What a joy. And marimba. People may not know about the marimba as much. And it's such a beautifully, I think, crafted. I learned about how, they'd select the wood to make the marimba. And it's like this kind of large xylophone. And I think it has an amazingly beautiful, melodic kind of, I don't know, it just kind of entices me, sound of calling. And I remember you talk about storytelling, but I remember we were in a restaurant and Nassim Gregory is a marimba player, three generations, right? I think that's another incredible thing, right? That we learned a lot in Colombia is just that generational, 3, 4 generations of musicians and cooks. I love all that, keeping that history and culture alive. And, we were in the restaurant and Nassim was playing the marimba. It was so beautiful. And one of the cooks in the kitchen, she heard it and she said she just had to come out because she's Afro-Colombian. And she came out and we just started dancing. And it was like the call of the marimba and it spoke to her. And then at one point, we're in the kitchen dancing and she just had tears in her eyes. And she just said how much hearing the marimba, that's what I meant about that calling. She was drawn to it. When she's in the kitchen and she hears it and she knew she had to come out because it was speaking to her, it was ancestral. I mean, it wasn't just this instrument, but it meant more to her. I mean, it was like part of her DNA. And so it was just so beautiful. And then we started dancing and it was just lovely. But that's so much a part of the Pacific is the marimba, the traditions of the marimba, passing down, family after family, the marimba itself, and what it means. And so it's just to me a glorious history and culture and tradition. And I think if people can go to the Pacific, if they can go to Cali and some of the surrounding areas and tap into that and listen to it and hear it, I think you will be truly moved by it.
I love that. And also, like, the joy and the passion
Yes.
that it brings you, like, visibly, like, and I hope that, stories like this and you being able to share them, like, encourages people. Like, I feel very strongly that we need to protect and fund and encourage risk taking and creativity and community building, and you're doing all of those, Kim.
Awesome.
So I wanted to ask, what's coming up for you? What's down the road for you with AfroLatino Travels with Kim Haas?
Well, I can share that we will be in probably November in Salvador da Bahia. So if you are familiar with Brazil, shooting in Brazil. So this has been another dream of mine. And so that's going to be absolutely just fantastic, mind blowing, incredible, all those magnificent. I can't add enough greatness to it. But I was just in Salvador in December, and let me tell you, it's just truly an incredible place. So we'll be shooting in November, so I'm super excited about that, and so we'll be sharing that as well. Yeah.
Wonderful, and we look forward, Kim, to celebrating Latino Hispanic Heritage Month and following your adventures and your travels. I wanted to leave off with one last question. A lot of us
Sure.
are traveling, and it's kind of this easing out of the worst parts of the pandemic. So people are getting their passports, people are booking
Yes.
tickets, people are like reconnecting with their own cultures right now. A lot of us. Do you have any advice for the travelers and for the wandering souls that are out there right now?
Go. Just go. If it's on your list, if it's in your heart, if it's on your head, if it's on a piece of paper, if it's been a goal, a dream, or if you just thought about it yesterday, go do what you can to make it happen. Do not delay. Go. You will be so richly rewarded. I can't say it enough. Every time I've gone anywhere, and like I said, right now I'm in Charleston and so grateful. You can always be learning and open your heart to new experiences, new people. It makes the world much smaller. And we realize that we all have so much more in common. And I think, as you said, Christian, kind of post pandemic, get your wanderlust back and get out on the road, wherever it is. Even if you can't go abroad, just go to your local park. Sit by a tree and thank Mother Nature, God, whoever it is, for this beautiful tree and the grass or wherever you are. But look for something green, something blue, and enjoy it and appreciate it. Get out and go.
I love that so much, Kim. That is great advice. So
Thank
with
you.
that, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. And Kim, thank you so very much for
Thank
joining
you.
Latino Outdoors and Latino Conservation Week for our 10-year anniversary. Um, like I told you on the phone, it is a special one, so there's no way that we could do this week without you.
Aw.
Keep in touch with us. I think tech. Um, and to your family, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your in Latino Conservation Week.
Gracias y felicidades. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay, gracias, Kim.
Adiós.